Good afternoon. It is a great pleasure and honor to be here to Sheriff Barnes. I had in my notes Chief Barnes, and he said, no, it's Sheriff Barnes. So he's the Chief Sheriff Barnes with us here today. Captain Walewa, thank you for your service for 2 years, and we will miss you sorely, but hopefully we will see you around town. And to all the chiefs and to all the trainers and to you, the family and friends and supporters of these no longer recruits, but officers, we say thank God for your presence and your support. Congratulations, Class 247. Come on, you can do better than that. Now, I need you to help me, and I'm serious. I need you to help me. Officer Vaughn texted me and called me numerous times over the last several weeks to tell me what I'm supposed to do and how I was supposed to do it. And then he told me he wanted me to be myself, but he gave me 7 minutes. Now, just ask you a question. How many of you all know that Baptists can't tell time? Have you ever seen a Baptist talk for less than 7 minutes? Well, I won't disappoint you. You won't see it today. Amen. But if you say amen, I'll move faster. Amen? Amen? All right, let's go. So since our time is short, I want to jump right into this. This is really an honor, and I'm very, very grateful. But I want to challenge you to consider my words and consider what I'm saying without dismissing it. Don't listen from a political or religious perspective, but a perspective of humanity. And for you officers, you new officers, consider my conversation and my comments in light and in comparison and as a companion to your training, not as voiding out your training. I want to say 3 things real quick. I want to expand on one, and then I want to tell you why I told you those 3 things. Is that all right? So here's the first 3 hopes, my deep desire, my wish, my prayer for you. Is the first thing, I want you to come home every day safe and sound, without wounds and without scratches, because you deserve to come home safe. Y'all was supposed to say amen. The second hope and desire that I have for you is that you never, ever hear from me and others saying, defund the police. We need to give you more funds and more support. That scares me to death. We need you, we want to support you, and we're glad to be partnering with you. Thank you. But lastly, and where I want to spend the most time, is I hope that you make a commitment to policing with love. A couple months ago, this recruiting class was divided amongst 3 community organizations. Our church was one. I had about 13 recruits and a couple other people from the staff who came to our church, and we spent about 3.5 hours together just sharing. And one of the things that I encouraged them to do was to kind of take off their recruit hats and let's just be honest. Let's have open and honest conversation about where we are as a nation, where we are as a community, where we are relationally between the community and law enforcement officers. And don't be afraid to have honest conversation, even if you think it is offensive. And one of the things that I asked them to do was to tell me why you want to be an officer, why you want to be a part of the police force. And person to person, woman to man, all said things that are surrounded around making a difference in the world, making a difference in the community. And I said, wow, this is amazing. You all are here not because you want to exhort power, but you're here because you want to make this society better. And I want to challenge us as officers and as family and as people in the community to make this world better by ascribing to the ethic of love. Let me just give you a couple things, and I'll take my seat. There you go. Now, I'm not telling you, and I'm not suggesting that you are not to be officers who enforce the law and discipline. Discipline and law enforcement is needed in our community. But as a parent, discipline without love is abuse. Love becomes the barometer. You said you want to make a difference. You make a difference by being an officer of love. This country is divided on many levels. And I'm not here to get into why we're divided or how we're divided, but we're divided in areas of politics, of religion, the vaxxers, the non-vaxxers, educationally, socially, economically, all these things that have divided us. And I tell you that love is the only force that can bring us together. Part of the biggest challenge, amen, part of the biggest challenge in our society is that we are divided and we want people to come to our side. But there is no us and them, it's just us. We are better together. Turn to your neighbor and say, we're better together. Turn to your other neighbor and say, we're better together. Listen, if you only had 2 teeth, they look better together. I am convinced, in the words of Martin Luther King, we fear each other because we don't know each other. And we don't know each other because we don't communicate with each other. We don't communicate with each other because we are separate from each other. The biggest challenge to our society today is not who's in the White House. It's not whether we have been vaccinated or not. It's not who we vote for or where we live. The biggest obstacle in our country today is that we are divided and we are comfortable staying apart. I want to challenge us because when we are divided, we don't understand each other. We don't know each other. And we're able to have hate for one another when we don't understand each other. Hate blinds us. It warps our perspective, and it gives us permission to devalue human beings, and it justifies improper behavior. Let me give you an example. I had an opportunity when I was an intern going into the ministry very early in my life. Don't look at your watches, but I'm almost finished. I was in St. Louis, and I was in a particular neighborhood that was one of the roughest places in this country. Crime was high, homelessness was high, single parenting was high. It was just a really tough neighborhood. And I was in this church, and I was there to run a summer program. So I was running this summer program, and I had about 25 children that we started off with. And the kids were pretty good. They wanted to have a safe place in the summer to play sports and to play games and to have a good time. And we would keep them from about 9 in the morning to about 6 p.m. We would feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner because oftentimes that would be the only time they would have an opportunity to eat. And we had this one little kid about 8 years old. He was only about 60 pounds, and he was terrible. As a matter of fact, the pastor who I worked with, I was there for about 3 weeks, and he said, "How's the camp going?" I said, "It is going really well. We're growing. We're having fun. We're developing." I said, "But I have one kid who's just a problem. Every time there's something going on, he's in the middle of it." He says, "Why do you think that is?" I said, "Because he is Satan. I have met Satan, and his name is Aaron, and he'll be here tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And he says to me, watch this. He says, "So you think he's Satan?" "No, I didn't think he was Satan. I know he's Satan." I said, "The only thing I'm waiting to see is the horns." I said, "I think we should eliminate him from the program. We should not allow him to come back because he's just a problem." And so my pastor said to me, he says, "Ivan, I agree with you. We should eliminate him and get rid of him. But let's not do it now. Let's do it in 2 weeks." He said, "Here's what I want you to do." He says, "I want you to greet him every morning when he comes in with a hug." I said, "What you talking about, Willis?" He says, "Hug him." He said, "And then spend 90 seconds with him. Ask him about his day. Ask him how was his night. Find one thing to talk with him about for about 90 seconds. He says, and then when you conclude your conversation with him for 90 seconds, think of something real positive to say to him. He says, for a kid to be that young, to have that much anger, you don't know what he's going through. So the first day he comes back, the next day I looked at him and I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and I gave him a hug, and he stood there as if it was the worst thing he had ever experienced. And then I said, man, how was your day? And he looked at me. He said, how was yours? I said, what did you do last night? He said, what did you do last night? And I'm like, shucks, is it 90 seconds yet? Fast forward, I did that every day for 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, this little kid would run to me and give me a hug. And he said, let me tell you about my day. Let me tell you what I did yesterday. And he began to talk, and he began to change, and he began to be a leader in that camp for the rest of the summer. That little kid, I followed him for the rest of elementary school. I followed him through middle school. I followed him through high school. He ends up getting a scholarship to play at a Division III football program. Got an associate's degree. He's married with children, and he is doing well. Love has the ability to change lives. Let me give you 3 things, and I'll get out of your way. So here's the action item. Here's what I want you to understand. The first thing, I want you, you, and me to always question every stereotype that demeans and denigrates our humanity. It is often uncomfortable to question. It is often difficult to stand against the winds of conformity, but it is essential that you challenge anything that presents people as less than human. Number 2, seek to build relationships as a strategic practice of eliminating the them versus us and us versus them attitude. In other words, spend time with people who think different, who look different, who act different from you, to build relationships. Because when you build relationships with people you don't understand, it eliminates ignorance. And ignorance is one of the most deadliest denominations that we can have in our society. The Dalai Lama said the greatest threat to humankind is ignorance. And the last thing I'll say before I take my seat is remember that you have multiple weapons. Your voice is a weapon, as they teach you, and your hand gestures are a weapon, and the baton is a weapon, and the mace is a weapon, and the taser is a weapon, and your gun is a weapon, but the most powerful weapon that we possess is the weapon of love. Use all the tactics that you have been training for the past 5 weeks. Support each other, love each other. But never forget, love is a weapon. We can make a difference if we simply remember the powerful words of Michael Jackson. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him or her to change our ways. You said in your remarks that this is a new day of policing, and I want this day to be marked by love. I dare you to use the most powerful and lethal weapon in your arsenal, the weapon of love. Thank you very much for your time.